We've now been joined by Jeff Gordon, driver of the number 24 Drive to End Hunger Chevrolet. And Jeff, coming into Dover this weekend, a track that you have 4 victories at, and also after a strong run last week. Talk a little bit about your expectations this weekend. Yeah,
we're certainly looking forward to this weekend. I really enjoy Dover, always have, and our team is just really bringing great race cars to the track right now. So honestly, I look forward to every weekend. Today's gone very well, and looking forward to qualifying, looking forward to the race. But yeah, this is a challenging racetrack for a lot of reasons. The surface, the banking, the loads that we go through, some of the bumps, that really create quite a challenge for the team and the drivers, and I feel like our team's done a great job with that so far because I feel like we came here and unloaded close, and we're just fine-tuning right now, which is always good to be able to do that. And that's what we've been doing a lot of this year, and why I think we've been as successful as we have been, because the team's just done such a great job over the off season and in preparation for each week to come in and just work on the small details instead of trying to recreate setups to find big gains that we're missing.
All right, we'll go ahead and open for questions for Jeff. If you'll please raise your hand and state your name and affiliation. We will start up front with Holly Kane first.
Holly Kane, NASCAR.com. Hey, Jeff. 2 things real quick. One, could you update us on your back? How are you feeling? And Reagan Smith said that he wasn't on standby, so I'm assuming that you didn't have to take that measure this week. And secondly, do you get anything out of this Dover race to help you prepare for when you guys come back in the chase, or is it just the circumstances and the conditions in the summer one just too different?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm 100%. I'm back closer to normal, which is just always aggravation and some discomfort. Still feeling some of the effects from what I went through last week, but felt good in the car. Didn't have any sharp pains, so that's good. I just had a week of rest and just normal activity. Lots of ice this week, and I was pretty sore on Monday and Tuesday after that long 600, but that's not totally unusual, but probably just a little bit more than normal because of all that I went through. So I feel good for this weekend. As far as this race, yeah, I think that every time we come to a track that is going to be in the chase, we're not just looking at how we can perform well at that race, but we're looking for as much information as we can gather to make sure that if we're in the chase, we come back, we can be competitive enough to go win the championship and be strong at that race. So there's no doubt that this is an important track, and we recognize that this is a track that you can win this championship with.
All right, we'll go to Mike Hembry and then back up front to Steve Richards. Go ahead, Mike.
Mike Hembry, USA Today. Jeff, last week, did you have do any physical therapy, anything special to do with the back? And has this, I know you've had some of this trouble before, but has last week made you think any more about the dreaded R word?
The issues that I've had in the past never really were like what I dealt with last weekend. That's the first time that something like that happened in the car on qualifying day into a race weekend. I've rolled out of bed and had things like that happen. And that's just being tight and not just not having the muscles with blood flow and being loose, and that's part of just getting older. But it was a little bit foreign to me to have that, and that's why I had to get out of the car, and the treatment that I had was I had an epidural as well as another type of injection that I don't know what they call it, some type of cortisone that's fairly typical and common. I don't know all the different stuff that was in there that made the pain go away and helped more of the inflammation is I think what they were trying to accomplish. So that's the first time I've ever had to do that on a race weekend. I've done that before in a different part of my back that didn't really do much for me. This one luckily did. What was the other part of your question? Oh, see, I already forgot about that. I think that it really more pointed towards some things that I have to address throughout a race weekend and how I handle the downtime. And I've been working a lot harder on my training and riding a bike and exercising. And the problem with that is that it tightens everything up even more so than normal. And so if I don't stay loose and ice and do other things that keep me loose when I get to the race weekend, what happened could possibly occur again. So that's the biggest thing I'm focused on, not thinking or focusing on anything else. I mean, I could tell you if that happens many more times, I won't have a choice.
We'll go to Steve Richards and then Claire.
Steve Richards with PRN. Jeff, has the team had to alter your driver's seat at all for this weekend?
There's nothing that they can do any different. The seats are fine. It's not about the seat. Over the years I've tried lumbar supports. I've tried all kinds of things, different positionings, all that stuff. The position that I'm in is the best I could ask for. I've talked to the doctor about that. We shortened up the throw on the clutch pedal last week because I was having some issues when I extended my left foot all the way out. We've taken that out this week. I didn't like it in the car last week. Most of it's just in the treatments that I went through that's going to help that pain, and then ice and some different types of stretches. And then it's just not sitting. The biggest contributor was we practiced on Thursday, and we had about a 3-hour delay in between practice and qualifying, and I just sat in the truck for too long in one place and I really think that those issues that I have all the time just got inflamed and irritated, and then when I went in the car kind of cold and tight, it just made it inflame and agitate it more, and that's where the pain came from. And then once that happened, there was nothing that was going to fix it until I had those injections on Saturday.
If we can get a mic to Claire, please.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I know your back issue is different than Denny Hamlin's, but what is the part of being in the car and at what track and when you're feeling the racetrack that is the toughest on a back for a driver? Like, what is there a part like when you're driving the car that's sensitive?
Yeah, I'm sitting here fine. I can walk fine, sitting in the car and pushing on the pedals and turning the steering wheel. That's probably what's contributing. Doing this for 30, 40 years, that definitely has contributed to those things. It's not unlike any other profession, whether you're a golfer or a tennis player, that continuous motion and pushing those muscles and parts of your body that eventually. I do have some degenerative disc. Which is, again, very common for a lot of people. But when you put that into racing, it just makes it a little bit tougher. So, it's just something I just continue to learn and push through. No big deal.
And when you stepped out of the car last week, even though you edged into the golf cart after the drivers' meeting, you went to Victory Lane to say hi to Jimmy. It really didn't seem like it bothered you much after the race, after the long 600.
I iced it for a while, so it was numb by then. Once the blood's flowing and the adrenaline and all those things get going, it's not so bad. Monday and Tuesday were a lot tougher.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Matt.
Matt Weaver, Popular Speed over here behind the Podium. I know that with the injury or the re-aggravated back, it makes the questions easier to ask. But even with your back condition, do you feel kind of aggravated at people continually asking you, hey, when are you going to retire, as if, we're pushing you out the door already?
No, it just, it doesn't bother me. You guys can ask me whatever you want to ask me, and I'll try to answer the best that I can. But my focus is not on that. My focus, I feel like if you're going to be a good race car driver, you better be willing to handle distractions and maybe have some questions asked to you that you prefer not to have asked, and get your mind back refocused on what your job is. And that's what I'm doing. I understand. I got out of the car on Saturday. I knew, one is it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, in my racing career for sure, to make that decision. It was not an easy one, and I was doubting myself while I was doing it, but my body was telling me that I thought it was the right thing to do. So I knew that there would be repercussions that come from that, which would bring up a lot of these questions. Luckily, Sunday went well, and we got through it, and we actually had a really strong car and a strong race up until that last caution came, and I think that if anything, that only built more momentum for our race team to go through what we went through and to go have that kind of a race, to show the team what kind of determination I have, as well as kind of show our competitors that it's going to take a lot to get us down. I think that did more good for us for this season and our chances for a championship than anything else, and that's where my focus is. But you guys feel free to ask me all the questions that you want about retirement. I don't have an answer for you. When the day comes and that decision's made, I'll be more than happy to share it with you.
All right, go ahead.
Jeff, right here. Kevin Tressolini from the News Journal in Delaware. You talked about the uniqueness and the difficulty of this particular track. Despite all that, what is the appeal and the attraction and the challenge of this particular track, and why it's a fun track to come to?
Well, yeah, it's the only track that we have that's like this: 1 mile, oval, high banked, big sweeping corners, and it's concrete. So those are all the ingredients that make it unique. Trying to describe it from a driver's standpoint, you carry a lot of speed in the corner. A car sort of gets light, drops into that banking, and then it really picks it up heavily. You put a lot of wheel input into the front tires, and today, especially with these cool temperatures and the cars with the more downforce in them, man, we're flying out there. And so you got to be really, really committed to the throttle and the steering wheel, and you're in that corner for a long, long time. So that's something we don't have on the circuit. We have some fast racetracks. Charlotte's certainly one of them, but it's 1.5 miles and it's pavement, and so this definitely challenges everybody. And if it gets warmer throughout the weekend, then the track will get slicker, and that will challenge us even more. But yeah, I'm anxious to get these 2 rounds of qualifying in today to see how this goes. It's something we've never done here before. And every time we go to the track the first time with this new format, it's always a learning experience for every one of us.
All right, we'll take Steve Richards and then our final question from Scott. Okay,
Jeff,
Steve,
I wanted to know about Dover and how tough this track is on your back.
Yeah, this is typically a pretty tough race. Today was the thing that made me get out of the car last week is I got in the car, I pushed in the clutch pedal to take off out of the garage, and I had shooting pain in my back. And then I went out onto the track, and when I drove into the corner and loaded up into the banking, I had more shooting pain. And I knew right then, the very first lap I ran in practice, that I probably was not going to run the rest of the day. And so that's what I'm looking for now. When I go to a track, I'm looking for, if there's shooting pain, then I'm going to get out. There was no shooting pain. So, yeah, there was loads and there were muscles in my back that were being used a lot because it's a high bank, very fast racetrack with big sweeping corners. Those are the toughest places that we go to that I feel it, and that's on a normal basis as well as with what's going on right now.
And you said after Kansas you felt like you were 25 again. Do you still feel that way?
If I win this race on Sunday, I will. Amazing how a win takes away all your pain.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Scott, go ahead.
I didn't say I felt 25 on Monday.
Scott Walsh from the Scranton Times in Pennsylvania. Jeff, you just mentioned how this new qualifying format, every time you go to a new track, it's a whole new experience. Going to Pocono next week, can you talk a little bit about how you think the qualifying format might play there? And 12 races in now, how do you like the qualifying format?
Yeah, Pocono is usually one of those tracks, and a lot of these places really, here and Pocono, I mean, this is different because you hold your breath shorter. So, but this is a white knuckle, hold your breath experience that you kind of go out there and do it for 1 or 2 laps, and then you say, okay, whew, boy, I'm glad that's over. Where this weekend we're going to have to hopefully do that more than once if you make it to round 2 especially. Where at Pocono it's the same kind of thing. That's a long lap. It's a tough qualifying session. You really got to be committed, put the car on the edge, and even though you can breathe down those long straightaways, you're holding your breath through those corners with the shifting and all the things that are involved, and there being an extra session there. There'll be 3 sessions there. It's and whether or not drafting is going to come into play. I'm not saying we'd be bumper to bumper, but you might want a car out in front of you to get a little bit of a draft off of at Pocono. So, yeah, we won't really truly know until we go there and experience it. But I love the format. I think it's even though we haven't done very well at it, or I haven't done very well at it, it doesn't mean I don't like it. I do. We just got to get the balance of the car a little bit closer for this type of format.